Hello and welcome to a very special interview show of The Prode. It is my pleasure to have a dear friend and my former co-panelist Anoushka Sabnis on the show. Anushka is among the youngest authors of the country and she got her debut novel published at just the age of 9 years named Once Upon a Verse. She is also a poet, a speaker and a Goodwill Ambassador. Thank you Anushka for agreeing to this interview and welcome to The Prode.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so tell me about how all this started. At what age you decided to write a book and what was the motivation behind that?
Right. So, since I was really young, I had an inclination towards books and reading. And my parents used to read bedtime stories to me as a toddler. And then eventually I started reading on my own. And then when I learned how to write, I started writing these little short stories. And we decided to preserve them somehow. And we created a blog where I used to post all my stories. And writing stories eventually led to writing poetry. And that's how the whole journey of writing began. Now, one year, we decided to keep a list of New Year resolutions. So it was a list with 20 things, and one of them was to write poetry. So I started writing poetry, and I really enjoyed it. And after about a year, I realized that I had a lot of poems, and that's when we decided that we might publish this book. So we started exploring that idea. So the original intention was never to publish. I wrote because I like to write, and that led on to me getting it published.
Okay. So tell me about your work and what is it exactly about?
So my first book is Once Upon a Verse, and it's a collection of 52 poems that I've written over 1 year. I've written poems on various genres. So I write humorous poems and motivational poems. And there are some poems which are slice of life, everyday things that happen in the life of a 9-year-old girl. And that's what my book is about.
Okay. So first of all, tell me about what are the challenges that you faced while writing the book, and then tell me about the challenges you faced while publishing that book.
So while writing, honestly, there were no challenges since I already told you the intent was never to get it published. That came on later. So writing was a really fun process for me and it came to me naturally. Now, publishing was a bit tricky since when we approached all these publishing houses, they hadn't seen any children authors earlier. So we eventually decided on self-publishing and we did it through Partridge, which is an assisted self-publishing wing of the Penguin publishers.
Okay.
So that's how it came about.
Okay. So tell me about like how do you market your books? What sort of social media platforms do you use, and like how do you do this whole process of marketing your book?
So social media platforms, the more you use, the more promotion your book gets. So I've used Facebook and Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, all these social media handles. My mom helps me to promote my book, and that's where I meet a lot of writers. A lot of writers approach me and congratulate me. And I meet a lot of Times of India. They wanted to interview me. We met on LinkedIn. So social media is really effective and promotion through those handles is really simple.
Hmm. Okay. So when is your next book coming, and what is it exactly about?
Right. So my next book, see, since my first book came out, I have written a lot of short stories and I've definitely continued poetry. But everything that I've written is not meant to be published. I definitely have ideas for publishing a novel too. So I have two ideas at the moment. One of them is a young adult fiction, which is based in a dystopian setting. And the other idea is a collection of short stories. Since I have so many, I might compile them together and get them published as a novel. And this could happen by the end of next year, early 2021.
Okay. So self-publishing versus traditional publishing, like which one do you prefer, and what is the reason behind it?
See, traditional publishing is where the serious publishing happens, where the famous authors get their novels published. And it does have a lot of merits. There's a very wide reach and a huge audience, and marketing and editing help is professionally provided, which is great. But self-publishing, in my experience, was a very fast process. And for first-time authors, it's the best. since you can do it at your own pace, and it's really easy to get done with the whole process, and it's really quick.
Okay. So what was your reaction when you received the JLF call, and like share your experience related to the Jaipur Literature Festival 2019?
So the JLF call was a huge moment in my life. There were a lot of events that led to it happening. So as I told you, I promoted my book on all social media handles possible. And the turning point was when Shashi Tharoor, he saw one of these posts and he recognized my book and he congratulated me. And simultaneously, a lot of other people also approached me, like Kailash Satyarthi. He's a Nobel laureate, and he congratulated me and invited me to meet him. And best-selling author Ashwin Sanghi, he also wrote to me, and we talked about mentorship. So all these interactions led to a lot of media interest, and a lot of companies like Times of India and The Quint and a lot of FM radio channels, they wanted to interview me. And subsequently, I got the JLF call. Now, the experience at JLF, it was a great event. It was a whole different experience altogether. So it was a 5-day event, and I had 2 sessions during that time. I spoke about young writers in children's literature with my co-panelists, and you would know you were one of my co-panelists as well in my second session. So
Yeah.
and on the days I was not speaking in any session, I attended so many other sessions, and I met up with all those amazing personalities, and it was a great networking and learning opportunity for me.
Okay. So who are your favorite writers? Which genres do you read, and what is the reason behind that?
So the answer to this question, it keeps evolving as I grow. My current favorite writers are John Green and Veronica Roth, Suzanne Collins, the authors written Hunger Games. And my current read is actually, I'm reading The Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare. I also recommend that series. I like reading these books because I feel I can relate to them. These authors are modern day authors who write, whose stories are set in the current time period. So it really helps me connect with the characters and it helps me understand the emotions better. So I like reading contemporary young adult fiction.
Okay. And who is your all-time favorite author from your childhood? Like,
My all-time favorite, I would say, is J.K. Rowling, since the Harry Potter series was the first book series, which I can say I was obsessed with it. And J.K. Rowling is a great author. I have loved her for a very long time, and at one point of time, I really aspired to write something like Harry Potter, something of such great magnitude. Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
you could say.
So you are also a Goodwill Ambassador. So share your experiences related to that.
Okay, so GGA is a group of people, is an organization based in the United States, and it's an affiliate of the United Nations. And there are people picked from all over the world who've excelled in their particular fields, who work on humanitarian issues. So they also organize awareness campaigns in the fields of hygiene, education, women empowerment. And we connected through LinkedIn, and that's how I'm involved with these people.
Okay. So how can someone be a writer at such a young age? Like, what are the skill sets that are needed, and like how to take it forward?
So, to be a writer, the first thing that is required is to be a reader. Because the love for books and literature, it sprouts from books. You can read, and not only novels are necessary, you can read magazines, you can read comic strips, you can even read newspapers. The reading is what counts, because it helps your imagination flow out on pen and paper, and it helps the ideas to come. uh, Also, it would be great if the school assignments that you get, all those essay writing and letter writing and diary entry, it would be great if you gave it importance and if you took it seriously. Because since the school is our foundation and all these things start from school, that's where you might find your interest to be a writer. That's what I would
Okay.
recommend.
Okay. So many people think like think that like that publishing is very publishing is a very difficult process. Like many people believe this. So what do you feel and how do you respond to these people?
See, finding publishers is easy when you know what steps to take. So there are a couple of ways to do that. The first thing you can do is you can create a list of all the publishing houses, big or small, that you'd like to contact, and then check their website out, write to them, and then things start happening. Another thing you can do is you can visit book fairs because there are a lot of agents and publishers present there, and strike up conversations with them. It becomes really easy to approach that way. And in my personal experience, LinkedIn has also helped a lot since there are a lot of people available. And when they see your profile, they realize that you might have some potential. So it becomes very easy to contact publishers.
Okay. So what will be your message for young budding authors?
So, see, I can't emphasize and stress enough on the fact that reading is crucial because reading does two very important things. Firstly, it helps you it helps your imagination grow, and you can think in many different perspectives. And secondly, it really enhances your vocabulary, which then hone your writing skills. So reading, writing, all this is very important. I mean, write without inhibitions and without the fear of being judged. Write what you want to write about, not what other people are writing about. That's a really important thing. And also, the advice I give to most people who ask me this is start young, because then you have a whole lifetime to develop your skills and improve and do what you want to do.
Okay, so Anushka, thank you very much for taking out the time and thank you for joining at the program.
Thank you so much. It was a great experience.